everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the kickoff of our monthly Snowflake webinar series, The More You Know. This will be hosted by Eric Linneman, our Cloud Competency Director, and you can look forward to one of these every month, so keep tuned after the webinar ends for the next date. So just a little bit about Datasource Consulting before we get started. We are a pure play enterprise data management, modern data architecture, and decision intelligence consulting firm. In 2016, we were acquired by EXL Service as part of their analytics arm. So we're really excited now to be able to offer the end-to-end solutions for managing enterprise data and providing the deeper business insights. And as far as how we deliver, we divide our services into two categories. We have our strategic work in data governance, vendor tool evaluation, data virtualization, and program establishment. And then we have the implementation arm with the engineers and the architects who work with the internal client teams to deliver on the recommendations we make through our strategy work. This includes architecture and cloud, of course, BI and decision intelligence, data quality, and MDM. So I'll quickly introduce you here to Eric Linneman and let him get started. Eric is a database engineer. He has been with Datasource for about 3 years now. He specializes in cloud deployment and IT project management with over 20 years of successful enterprise consulting experience. So he brings a lot of expertise here with multiple platforms, IT, technical, and organizational leadership and modernization. Eric's received many awards for customer engagement, performance, and leadership, and he also has successful C-level engagement and executive reporting. If you do have any questions, please reach out to us. There's some contact information at the end of the presentation. We'll be happy to hear from you and answer your questions offline. And with that, I will hand it off to Eric.
Thank you, Allison. So this is the first of our series that we're calling The More You Know. It's going to be a focused series of webinars that we've got about Snowflake, either a new capability, a lesson learned, some best practices, and some architectures that we've been able to implement. So as Allison mentioned, we are partners with Snowflake. We've been partners for about 2 years and have implemented some very effective solutions together with Snowflake for some of our customers across both Amazon and the Microsoft Cloud Platform. And what we're going to talk about today is just how to maximize your ROI with Snowflake. And Snowflake, being a purely cloud-based platform, has some characteristics that we think will overcome some issues that we've faced for decades in the database and enterprise data warehouse space. We're going to walk through each of these, but I want to start out by talking about why Snowflake is unique. If we look at their architecture, Snowflake's built entirely on the cloud. They're on Amazon, they're on Azure, and soon they'll be coming out on Google Cloud Platform. If you look at their architecture and how they're built, all the data is centralized and shareable, following the common practice in the cloud of bringing process to the data. We have unlimited automatic scale. So the old problems that we faced with resource constraint, those are gone now, and we're able to scale independently. We'll talk about that a little more down the road. But it's a solution that is built upon these core capabilities. What we found in working with our customers is Snowflake is a very cost-effective, very simple solution to put in place. We can build very highly detailed and very heavy workload solutions on top of Snowflake and address issues at a pace that we've never been able to do that before. And again, because of the nature of the architecture, we're able to get performance where we've never been able to get that before under heavy workloads and multiple users. So let's look at their architecture. Snowflake has a multi-cluster shared data architecture. Data is centralized, and it's centralized in cloud object storage. And because of the object storage, we have some capabilities that we would not have in traditional database storage, either from the relational database vendors or even NoSQL vendors. We've got an outside layer that is all the metadata and services that Snowflake brings into play, including user management, optimization, security, the metadata management, and transactions. These are all managed for you by Snowflake. We can have multiple warehouses, which are showing here under loading, analytics, and deployment. And all of this comes native to the package that you're implementing with Snowflake. So traditionally, when we've looked at laying out a data warehouse or implementing a very large database, we've had to provision hardware, we've had to provision network, rack the servers, buy the licensing, install the software. All of that has changed because of the way that Snowflake is taking advantage of the cloud and the cloud architecture best practices. So let's go to our first ROI and element, and that is zero startup costs. So I mentioned what we would do traditionally in as far as buying hardware, buying licensing, installing. Not only is that very expensive, it takes a long time. Getting a capital expenditure through a company approval process can take months, sometimes upwards of a year. And so just for fun, I went and Googled Teradata license costs, and you can tell when they come up with invest in Teradata that this is going to cost you quite a bit. There is no startup cost with Snowflake. You can do a free trial, and there's a URL here that we recommend you do if you're taking a look at Snowflake. But you can purchase credits, and we'll talk about the way the credits are consumed in a little bit. As many as you need. You could contract with Snowflake for support, and then again, your pricing is broken out into storage, which is a pass-through cost, and these compute clusters that we'll talk about down the road. There is no long-term licensing, no long-term hardware purchase that you have to do or leasing. So you can start up, you can examine and build a proof of concept with Snowflake in literally days rather than the months or years that it would take with traditional data warehousing. Our next item is the ability for Snowflake to scale the warehouses independently. We saw in that architecture diagram that they have different warehouses shown in the picture. And these are all independent compute clusters. They're usually on Amazon EC2, on Microsoft platform. They're virtual machines that are clustered together to run the actual processing. So all your DDL or your DML is done with these virtual warehouses. They act independently, so you can have a very heavy workload going on with your data science group while you're doing loading. And that's something that we've always had to fight in the past because of the constraints of resources. Everyone, I think, has seen where we've had to shut down access while we're doing period end closing in an ERP system because we don't have resources to support the heavy workload that's required for that period end closing and reporting at the same time. That issue has gone away because each of these warehouses operates independently using the same shared data with a read consistent image from each of the virtual warehouses. Our next recommendation is to spend very smartly on your usage. You'll see here we've got 3 virtual warehouses that we've defined, and we can define sizes. We'll talk about the t-shirt sizes and how that aligns with cost in a slide coming up. But you can independently scale these warehouses depending on the workload. So here our developers are using an extra small warehouse, while our data warehouse and the heavy processing that's going on is using an extra large. These auto suspend factors are also part of the economic model. So after a period of seconds that's defined here, the warehouse will spin itself down and stop burning and consuming cost. What we recommend is test your workloads, find out the optimum size based on a balance of cost and performance for the workloads that you've got, and then separate these based on either department, types of workloads, or the usage of the data. We also recommend leveraging ETL tools. So Snowflake now has a wide variety of ETL tools that have native connectivity directly into Snowflake. Snowflake also has some pretty advanced capabilities that come along with it for loading data, either real-time data, continuous streaming data, or coming from files that you can bring from any environment. They're standards-based, and they support over 90 different sources of bringing data in. This gives you a rich, scalable, easy to manage, and highly performant environment where you can bring data from multiple sources using native capabilities and reduce your complexity, cost, and time to deployment. And then one of the features that Snowflake has is using what they call the variant data type. And you can bring in semi-structured data into relational tables without having to shred XML, without having to parse through CSVs, without having to build a lot of code to do that. You can handle this semi-structured data and build these columns as wide as you want and use the capability within Snowflake to be able to query against that using traditional SQL. We've got an example here on the left where we've brought some taxi data in, and these are the taxi locations defined in New York City. And you can see we're doing a select query against it, and we're pulling data out from a stored CSV file. This is pretty impressive. It also works with JSON, XML, a couple of other different structured data types. But this is impressive capability that's built in native to Snowflake. Simplify your development, simplify your query by leveraging these capabilities going forward. And we talked about isolating workloads. When we look at a developer workload using maybe extra small, where a heavy data science workload may use extra large. The way Snowflake sizes these are they double in size each size, and they use a t-shirt sizing model, and you use credits billed per full hour. Now, once you're past a minute of utilization on that warehouse, you go into a per second billing. So we're able to get very fine-grained costing and really maximize the value of what we're getting for those credits that are being consumed. Test your long-running queries, find the size of warehouse that meets your requirements, either from a performance or a cost. We've been very surprised to find out just how much you can do with an extra small or a small warehouse. And this is an advantage that we have not been able to do in a traditional environment with a Teradata, Oracle, or any of the other relational databases. We can adjust the size and cost of how we work with these. And then again, from the account admin role, you can view the cost, both on a daily, monthly, you can view it by warehouse, and you can see what you're actually consuming tied to the credits that you've purchased from Snowflake. A big part of the advantage that Snowflake has is understanding how they align with performance. Traditional data warehouses, when you size those, you have to size in a very macro mode, either add additional cores, additional processors, additional storage, allocate resources and divide it between workloads. With Snowflake, it auto aligns based on the sizing and how you've scripted out your data warehouses to really consume optimally the way that you're working with the data. So you can see here at the bottom part of this diagram that we've got a fairly spiky workload. And the way we've defined these warehouses, we have auto scale set up. So as workloads increase, we increase the size of the warehouse. As they quiet down, we shrink down the warehouses. And when there's an idle environment, again, we come back to those timing that we talked about earlier, we stop that and there is no more consumption of credits or cost. And this is an advantage that I have not seen available in other vendors. And understanding and aligning this is very critical to really getting the maximum results out of Snowflake. We talked about integrating near real-time data. Snowflake has the ability to bring in, through what they call Snowpipe, streaming data. In our example here, we're looking at server logs. So you may have a server farm with a couple of thousand servers, and you want to aggregate all those server logs and do analytics against it, see where you're spending money, see where your workloads are, see what availability you've got. You can bring those in real-time basis. In this case, we've architected an Amazon solution, so we're bringing those in through Kinesis Firehose, dropping those into S3, and bringing it directly in from Snowpipe in a real-time manner. We've been working with this quite a bit, and it offers natively built, highly scalable, near real-time data ingestion, which is built into the Snowflake product and available and critical for these modern data platforms and near real-time data coming through. And so that sums up the concepts that we've talked about. Again, we're happy to talk to you about how we optimize our Snowflake workloads. When you think of the cloud, it really is an economic model that we implement through technology. And so maximizing the ROI and getting the most value out of Snowflake is critical, not only for your satisfaction, but really making an effective spend when you're working with Snowflake. I would recommend go through this presentation a couple of times, take a look at what we've recommended as far as sizing of warehouses, isolating workloads, using the capabilities that are in there to bring in data through native integrations, either from sources or from streaming data. And Snowflake will provide a fairly unique capability that we have not seen in other products, and our customers have been very happy with Snowflake. So my contact information is here. Please reach out to me. We're happy to talk to you about Snowflake or the other enterprise data management solutions that we build. Again, we've been a partner with Snowflake for 2 years and have developed some very innovative solutions for some very happy customers. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking with you again next month.